"My dog probably eats better than your children." Those cruel words echoed through Judge Judy's courtroom and instantly silenced every person inside. The wealthy young woman sitting at the defense table had walked in wearing luxury designer clothes, carrying an attitude that screamed superiority, and believing her powerful last name would shield her from accountability. But before the hearing ended, her entire world would collapse in front of millions of viewers. The woman at the center of the controversy was 24-year-old Madison Hartwell, daughter of controversial city mayor Richard Hartwell. Raised with endless privilege and protected from consequences her entire life, Madison believed money could erase any mistake. What she never expected was that one humiliating comment aimed at a hard-working single mother would ignite nationwide outrage and become one of the most replayed moments in Judge Judy history. But there was something nobody else inside that courtroom knew. Mayor Hartwell himself was secretly sitting in the back row, quietly listening as his daughter exposed the ugly person she had become. And before the day was over, the decision he made would shock the courtroom, destroy Madison's sense of security, and change both of their lives forever. Before we get into this unbelievable case, make sure you subscribe right now. Less than 5% of viewers are actually subscribed, and if you enjoy seeing entitled people finally face consequences, you don't want to miss what happens next. This story proves that arrogance eventually meets justice, no matter how powerful your family is. The lawsuit began with Rosa Martinez, a 38-year-old single mother, raising 3 children alone. Rosa had immigrated to America 15 years earlier with almost nothing except determination and hope for a better future. She worked exhausting hours every week trying to provide for her children, who, despite growing up with financial struggles, were thriving in school and making their mother proud every single day. For Rosa, getting hired by the Hartwell family seemed like a blessing. The position paid well, included housing in the family's guest house, and gave her a chance to finally start saving money toward opening her own cleaning business someday. For 2 years, Rosa worked tirelessly as the family's live-in nanny. She cared for Madison's children, organized schedules, cleaned, cooked, and handled household responsibilities with professionalism and patience. But behind closed doors, she constantly endured Madison's cold attitude, disrespectful remarks, and condescending treatment. Then came the Sunday morning that changed everything. Madison hosted an extravagant brunch at the family mansion attended by wealthy socialites who spent most of their time posting glamorous lifestyles online. While the guests laughed over mimosas and expensive meals, Rosa continued working quietly in the background, caring for the children. At one point during the brunch, one of Madison's friends complained loudly about having the help walking through the house where guests could see her. Madison laughed along with them and casually ordered Rosa to stay in the kitchen with the servants. Even then, Rosa remained professional and continued doing her job. But the worst humiliation was still coming. An hour later, Rosa walked out holding one of Madison's children and politely asked about preparing lunch for the kids. One of the guests happened to be recording video on her phone at that exact moment. Madison looked Rosa up and down with open disgust before saying the sentence that would soon explode across social media. "My dog eats better than your kids ever will. Maybe that's why you're desperate enough to work here. At least Prada has standards." Prada was Madison's spoiled French bulldog that wore designer outfits and had its own Instagram account. The entire table burst into laughter. The camera captured the pain on Rosa's face as she stood frozen in humiliation, while wealthy strangers laughed about her children. Yet Madison still wasn't finished. She told Rosa to feed the children whatever and keep them hidden because important people were visiting. Rosa silently returned to the kitchen and finished her duties. That night, after putting the children to bed, Rosa respectfully approached Madison in private and explained that the comments about her children had been deeply hurtful. She simply asked to be treated with dignity while working inside the home. Madison's response was immediate. She fired Rosa on the spot. No warning, no final paycheck, no severance. Madison ordered her out of the guest house by morning, and when Rosa asked about the wages she was still owed, Madison laughed and told her to consider it payment for learning her place. Rosa left the mansion carrying her belongings in trash bags. But unlike the 6 nannies before her, Rosa refused to stay silent. Instead of accepting hush money, she contacted an employment attorney and filed a lawsuit for unpaid wages, emotional distress, and wrongful termination. Days later, Mayor Hartwell's office quietly offered her $25,000 in exchange for silence and a promise never to discuss what happened publicly. Rosa refused. She didn't want payoff money. She wanted accountability. Soon after, the video from the brunch leaked online. Within hours, millions of people watched Madison mock a struggling mother and compare her children to a dog. News stations covered the story non-stop. Protesters gathered outside City Hall, demanding consequences. Labor advocacy groups publicly supported Rosa. And suddenly, Mayor Hartwell's family became the center of national outrage. The mayor already faced corruption investigations and accusations of abusing political power. But nothing had damaged his reputation like seeing his own daughter's cruelty go viral across the internet. Madison, meanwhile, acted completely unbothered. She had spent her entire life protected from consequences. Previous scandals involving drunk driving, assault allegations, and academic cheating had all quietly disappeared. Thanks to her father's influence and money, she believed this situation would vanish the same way every other problem had. Then the case arrived in Judge Judy's courtroom. The courtroom was packed with reporters, activists, and curious spectators eager to witness the confrontation. Rosa arrived early, dressed simply and professionally, carrying organized evidence including employment records, text messages, and work schedules. Madison arrived late. She walked through the courtroom doors, talking on her phone, while wearing thousands of dollars in designer clothing and jewelry. Her expression showed irritation rather than concern, as if attending court was simply an inconvenience, interrupting her luxurious lifestyle. Judge Judy noticed everything immediately. The dismissive attitude, the eye rolling, the way Madison ignored instructions from courtroom staff, the complete absence of remorse. Judge Judy had dealt with entitled defendants for decades, but something about Madison's behavior instantly caught her attention. The hearing began. Ms. Hartwell, Judge Judy said firmly, "You're being sued for unpaid wages, emotional distress, and wrongful termination. Do you believe you owe Ms. Martinez this money?" Madison barely looked concerned. "Honestly, Your Honor, this whole thing is ridiculous. Rosa was overpaid for basically babysitting. We were generous to her. She should be grateful." That word immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. "Grateful," Judge Judy repeated coldly. "According to this contract, she worked 60-hour weeks as a live-in nanny. That's employment, Miss Hartwell." Madison shrugged carelessly. "She lived in our guest house for free. Most people would be thrilled with that opportunity." Judge Judy leaned forward. "Did you fire her?" "Yes," Madison answered without hesitation. "She was difficult, dramatic, and constantly complaining. Judge Judy turned toward Rosa. Rosa calmly explained everything that had happened, including the humiliating comment about her children and Madison's refusal to pay her wages after termination. Judge Judy's expression hardened immediately. "What exactly did she say about your children?" Before Rosa could answer, Madison interrupted with a loud sigh. "Oh my God, not this again. It was a joke." Judge Judy snapped instantly. "Ems, Hartwell, interrupt me again, and you will regret it." The courtroom fell silent. Rosa quietly repeated the words Madison had spoken during the brunch. "My dog eats better than your children ever will." Gasps spread across the courtroom. Judge Judy slowly removed her glasses, a gesture everyone recognized as a warning sign. "Did you say that?" she asked Madison. Madison rolled her eyes. "It was rich people humor. My friends understood the joke." Judge Judy stared at her in disbelief. "Explain to me what part of mocking someone's poverty is funny." Madison still didn't understand the seriousness of the situation. If she couldn't handle teasing, maybe she wasn't suited to work around people from our social class. The courtroom reacted immediately. Judge Judy's voice turned ice cold. "Your social class? Tell me, Ms. Hartwell, what exactly have you accomplished besides spending your father's money?" For the first time, Madison looked slightly shaken. But years of entitlement pushed her arrogance right back to the surface. "My family built this city," she snapped. "People should be grateful to work for us." Judge Judy stared at her with visible disgust. "I've been doing this for 25 years, and your level of entitlement is extraordinary." Then Madison made the biggest mistake of her life. "Do you know who my father is?" she demanded. "He's Mayor Hartwell." The courtroom became completely silent. Judge Judy's response hit like a hammer. "I don't care if your father is the President of the United States. In this courtroom, your last name means absolutely nothing." Madison's confidence began cracking. Desperate, she claimed Rosa had violated a non-disclosure agreement by discussing the incident publicly. But Rosa's attorney quickly explained the NDA was invalid because Madison had refused to pay Rosa's final wages and severance. Judge Judy immediately understood exactly what had happened. "You fired her, refused to pay her, humiliated her publicly, and now you're shocked," she demanded. "Accountability?" Madison threw her hands up dramatically. "She should be thanking me. Working for my family was the best opportunity she'll ever get." The arrogance was unbelievable. Then something unexpected happened. A man suddenly stood up in the back row. The entire courtroom turned. It was Mayor Richard Hartwell. Madison's face instantly drained of color. "Dad, what are you doing here?" The mayor slowly walked toward the front of the courtroom while every person watched in silence. When he reached the bench, he looked directly at Judge Judy. "Your Honor," he said quietly, "I need to address this court regarding my daughter's behavior and my role in creating the person she became." Madison looked terrified. "You promised you'd make this disappear," she whispered desperately. Mayor Hartwell looked at her sadly. "This is me handling it." The courtroom sat frozen as the mayor admitted years of corruption, abuse of influence, and protecting Madison from consequences. He confessed that 6 previous employees had accepted hush money after enduring his daughter's abuse, but Rosa had refused to stay silent. And according to the mayor, that courage forced him to finally face the truth. "I created this monster," he admitted painfully. "I taught her that money and power erase consequences." Madison completely broke down. "Please, Daddy, just fix this like always. But this time was different." "No," he answered firmly. "I'm done protecting you from reality." Judge Judy finally delivered her verdict. Ms. Hartwell, You owe Rosa Martinez $15,000 in unpaid wages and severance. Madison reached for her purse, expecting the nightmare to end. But Judge Judy wasn't finished. You will also pay $25,000 in punitive damages for emotional distress and malicious humiliation. Madison's jaw dropped. $40,000? It was just words. Judge Judy's response was unforgettable. Words destroy dignity. Words leave scars. And you use yours as weapons against a hard-working mother caring for your children. Then came the punishment nobody expected. Judge Judy ordered Madison to record a public apology video explaining her actions, the consequences she faced, and what she intended to do differently moving forward. The apology would remain online permanently. Madison exploded in anger. "You're humiliating me publicly." Judge Judy fired back immediately. "You humiliated Rosa in front of millions first." Then Mayor Hartwell delivered the final blow. "Madison," he said firmly, "you're cut off completely." The courtroom gasped. No more mansion, no more allowance, no more luxury lifestyle, no more protection. "You're 24 years old," the mayor said. "It's time you learn how the real world works." Madison collapsed into tears. "I don't know how to live without money," she sobbed. For a brief moment her father looked heartbroken, but he stayed firm. "I love you enough to stop destroying you." Then he turned toward Rosa and apologized publicly for years of enabling cruelty toward hard-working employees. But Rosa's response stunned everyone. "I never wanted revenge," she said softly. "I only wanted respect." The courtroom fell silent again. Judge Judy delivered her final words directly to Madison. "You entered this courtroom believing wealth and power would protect you. Instead, you're leaving here with consequences, humiliation, and the truth about who you became." Then she turned to Rosa. "You showed courage, dignity, and strength in standing up against one of the city's most powerful families." The gavel slammed down. Court adjourned. Within hours, footage from the hearing exploded online. Millions watched Madison's breakdown, the mayor's confession, and Judge Judy's devastating verdict. 6 months later, Madison was working a regular hourly job, living alone in a small apartment, taking public transportation, and learning how ordinary people survive every day. Meanwhile, Rosa used the settlement money and public support to open her own cleaning company, employing other single mothers and treating every worker with dignity and respect. Because in the end, this wasn't just a courtroom case. It was a lesson about power, a lesson about consequences, and a reminder that true character isn't measured by wealth, status, or family names. It's measured by how you treat people who can do nothing for you. And on that day inside Judge Judy's courtroom, justice finally won.